From JBS Studios in Greater New York, this is the JBS News Update with Teisha Bader.
I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Monday, December the 11th, 2023. Fierce battles between Israeli troops and terror group Hamas in Gaza continued this weekend, with more IDF casualties named from Saturday, Sunday, as well as today. They are 46-year-old Major in Reserve Roman Bronstein, 24-year-old Captain in Reserve Elia Yanovsky, 32-year-old Master Sergeant in Reserve Ari Yechiel Zenelman, 36-year-old Sergeant Major in Reserve Itai Perry, 42-year-old Major in Reserve Evyatar Cohen, 35-year-old Sergeant Major in Reserve Gidon Ilani, 25-year-old Master Sergeant in Reserve Liav Atiya, 25-year-old Master Sergeant in Reserve Omri Ben Shachar, 25-year-old Staff Sergeant Yonatan Din Chaim, 19-year-old Sergeant Maor Cohen Eisenkot, the nephew of former IDF Chief of Staff Gadi Eisenkot, who lost his son in battle this past Thursday. 22-year-old Lieutenant Netanel Menachem Eitan was wounded on Friday in northern Gaza and succumbed to his wounds yesterday. And 20-year-old Staff Sergeant Chaim Meir Edan was wounded during the Hamas massacre of October the 7th, and he died of those injuries on Saturday. The IDF said its ground, air, and naval troops continue operations targeting and eliminating Hamas terrorists, their commanders, and any Hamas operatives until the IDF said we meet our goals to eliminate Hamas and bring the hostages home. Well, family members of several hostages being held in Gaza sat down today with members of the Knesset Foreign Affairs and Defense Committee, urging the government to prioritize a return to talks in order to get their loved ones home. Those at the meeting included a cousin and sister of Shiri Bibas, who is being held with her two children, the last two children in captivity in Gaza, 11-month-old Kfir and 4-year-old Ariel. Shiri's husband and the children's father, Yarden, is also still being held hostage. Rockets from Gaza continue today at central Israel, including at the city of Holon, just south of Tel Aviv, where a rocket made direct impact and lightly injured one man hit by shrapnel. The IDF said rockets were also fired at northern Israel, saying last night it responded to Hezbollah terrorists in Lebanon. President of the University of Pennsylvania, Liz Magill, resigned this weekend following backlash over her testimony, together with the presidents of Harvard and MIT, at the U.S. House of Representatives last week for their failure to clearly state that speech calling for the genocide of Jews violates the school's code of conduct on bullying and harassment. As we reported to you, the three said such speech could be in violation if it crossed into conduct. On Saturday, the university's board chair, Scott Bach, announced Magill's voluntary resignation and himself also resigned. Vice chair of the board, Julie Platt, was named interim chair. Platt is also the board chair of the Jewish Federations of North America. She agreed to serve as interim chair at Penn until the start of next year. Platt said in working as vice chair to address the rising issues of anti-Semitism on campus, we have not made all the progress that we should have. In my view, she said, given the opportunity to choose between right and wrong, the three university presidents testifying in the House failed. She called the leadership change at the university necessary and appropriate. Platt said, I will continue as a board member of the university to use my knowledge and experience of Jewish life in North America and at Penn to accelerate this critical work. 2 arrests were made recently for anti-Semitic incidents in the U.S., which have risen significantly since the October 7th Hamas massacre. A man was arrested in California on multiple charges, including robbery and a hate crime, after allegedly hitting a Jewish man on the head as he made his way to synagogue in Beverly Hills on Saturday, as the attacker demanded the man's jewelry. And this past Thursday, a man was arrested in New York for allegedly firing 2 shots outside Temple Israel in Albany while shouting threats. There were no injuries. New York Governor Kathy Hochul firmly condemned the incident.
The bottom line is this: the safety of Jewish New Yorkers is non-negotiable. every act, whether it's verbal or physical, any act of anti-Semitism is unacceptable, and undermining the public safety at our synagogue the first night of Hanukkah is even more deplorable.
Thousands took to the streets of Berlin to march against anti-Semitism at an interfaith rally at the Brandenburg Gate, held in response to a rise in reported anti-Semitic incidents across Germany since October the 7th. Marching under the banner of "Never Again is Now, Germany Stands Up." The USC Shoah Foundation, founded by director Steven Spielberg to document the witness testimony of Holocaust survivors, is now collecting video testimonies of those who survived the atrocities committed by Hamas terrorists against Israel on October the 7th, part of the foundation's documenting of post-Holocaust anti-Semitism. Spielberg said about the Hamas massacre, "I never imagined I would see such unspeakable barbarity against Jews in my lifetime." He said both initiatives, recording interviews with survivors of the October 7th attacks and the ongoing collection of Holocaust testimony, seek to fulfill our promise to survivors that their stories would be recorded and shared in the effort to preserve history and to work toward a world without anti-Semitism or hate of any kind. We must remain united and steadfast in these efforts. Taking a look now at our programming for tonight on JBS for Monday, December the 11th at 7 o'clock. Rabbi Ammiel Hirsch visits Brothers and Sisters in Arms, an organization of men and women in the IDF reserves who originally was formed to protest the controversial judicial reform measures, now having pivoted to mobilize in support of the war effort. At 7:30, author Jonathan Rosen talks about his book, The Best Minds, a story of friendship, madness, and the tragedy of good intentions, about his childhood friend Michael Lauder and the ways in which we understand and fail to understand mental illness. At 8, Abigail Pogrebin is joined by Rabbi Josh Feigelson, who describes how we can find meaning and purpose and what a Jewish mindfulness practice can really look like. At 8:30, Pogrebin speaks with Rabbi and author Edward Feld, who discusses the Book of Revolutions, his epic saga that presents the Torah as an emblem of pluralistic belief that continues to speak to us today. At 9, Helen Nash is on L'chaim. At 10, it's a look at the classic Jewish Knish. At 10:30, a replay of the JBS candle lighting for night 5 of Hanukkah. And coming up next, it's Good Week, Israel. And that's the JBS News Update for Monday, December the 11th, 2023. I'm Teisha Bader. Am Yisrael Chai.